welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into some really fascinating material. It's all about how our internal programs, the ones we often don't even know are there, well, how they really shape our reality.
That's right. They shape what we experience, what we seem to, attract into our lives.
And the sources we've looked at, they offer some pretty deep research and insights into the power of the mind,
Yeah.
specifically how we get these deep-seated programs.
And crucially, what we can actually do about them, how to maybe reset the system, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. So our mission here is to really unpack the mechanics of the subconscious mind. How does it work? And then how do you spot the specific programs that might be holding you back, quietly running in the background?
And find practical ways to actually shift them. That's the key, right? Based on what these sources suggest.
Absolutely. Because the core idea seems to be that we have these, well, amazing capabilities. We're like intelligent energy.
Huge potential. But it's often this invisible layer, the subconscious programming, that's kind of the gatekeeper.
The key to unlocking it, maybe.
Exactly. It often holds the key.
Okay, so let's dig into that. One of the first big ideas from the material is this concept of the brain as a psycho-cybernetic mechanism.
Yeah, sounds a bit technical, doesn't it? But it breaks down quite simply.
Okay.
Psycho refers to the mind, obviously. And cybernetics is, well, it's the science of self-regulating systems, feedback systems.
So, mind, self-regulating system, like an automatic pilot.
Pretty much. An automatic steering mechanism for your life, constantly adjusting based on feedback.
And they use that thermostat analogy, which I found really helpful.
Yes, that makes it very clear. You set your thermostat, let's say, 70 degrees. That's its program, its set point.
Got it.
Now, if the room temperature changes, gets colder, gets warmer, the thermostat senses that deviation.
It notices the difference from the setting.
Right. And automatically, without you doing anything, it kicks in. Turns on the heat, turns on the AC.
To bring it back to 70.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It works constantly to maintain that programmed setting, the status quo.
And the sources are saying our brain does something very similar, automatically reacting to things based on its internal settings.
That's the idea. It's responding to stimulation, to the world, based on the programs it's already running.
Which naturally leads to the question, where do these programs, these sort of core settings, even come from?
Well, one of the really strong points the material makes is about the first 7 years of life. That period is just critical.
7 years. Wow. That's young.
It is, because during those early years, the brain isn't operating like an adult brain. It spends a lot of time in a theta wave state.
Theta. What's that like?
It's a slower brainwave frequency. Think of it less like active analysis and more like a state of hypnosis almost, a download mode.
So you're just absorbing everything, like a sponge.
Exactly like a sponge. And this deep programming, it's happening without the child consciously filtering or choosing. It just goes in.
From parents, teachers, experiences.
Parents, peers, teachers, yeah, anyone influential. But also just experiences themselves, and importantly, the feelings or physical sensations tied to those experiences, they all get wired in. And once they're in there, these programs aren't just passive files. They live in the subconscious, and they run automatically through repetition.
Like the default software that boots up every time.
You got it. And the sources stress these programs aren't, inherently good or bad morally. They just are.
But some serve you better than others, presumably.
Absolutely. Some programs might really support the life you consciously want, while others, well, they actively work against it.
Then they operate automatically, like that thermostat temperature, just running in the background, steering things.
Yes. The mind, in this view, is that interface. It sits between the world you see, your biology, and how you behave. It's the filter.
It's what's in between everything, influencing what you notice, how you react.
And the scale of it is huge. The sources suggest something like 95% of our life is actually being directed by these subconscious programs.
95%. That's almost everything.
And that figure really explains why making conscious changes can feel so darn hard sometimes, so frustrating.
Right. You decide, okay, I'm going to change this habit or I'm going to achieve this goal. You put in the effort.
And maybe it works for a little while. You see some progress.
Yeah, but then you kind of slide back. Right back to where you started.
Exactly. Because that cybernetic mechanism, that thermostat function, it senses your conscious effort as a deviation from the old program, the established self-image it's been running for years.
And its job is to correct deviations.
Its job is to bring you back into alignment with the program it holds. So it subtly, unconsciously pulls you back into those familiar boundaries.
Like that money example they gave. You consciously try to earn more. Maybe you even get a raise or a windfall.
Right. But if your underlying program is, say, I'm someone who just gets by, or rich people are greedy, that internal program sees the extra money as, well, wrong, a deviation. And so unconsciously, your behaviors might shift. Maybe you spend it quickly, maybe an unexpected bill pops up. Things happen to bring your financial reality back in line with that deeper belief.
And that's where the frustration comes in. Feeling stuck, hitting that invisible ceiling, maybe even doubting if you can actually create change.
But the powerful message from the sources is, yes, you absolutely can. You can shape your reality, but, and this is the big but.
You have to change the internal program first.
Exactly. For permanent, lasting change, that internal setting, that self-image, has to be addressed directly.
So it's not just about willpower on the surface, it's about consciously going deeper.
Becoming consciously in charge of the change you want by identifying and then deliberately working on altering those programs.
And this involves understanding the difference between the two minds, right? The conscious and the subconscious.
Yes, that's crucial. The conscious mind is, the creative one. It's where your wishes, your desires, your aspirations live. It learns by reading, listening, thinking.
Like we're doing now.
Right, it gets ideas, but the subconscious mind, that's the habit mind. It's often quite resistant to just being told something new by the conscious mind.
It likes what it knows.
It does. Its main function is simply to execute the programs it already holds, to make those programs real in your experience, and it learns differently.
Okay, this connects to another really interesting point, how these subconscious programs actually filter what we perceive and how that relates to like attracts like.
Yes, the filtering mechanism. They use a great simple example: opening a newspaper or a magazine.
Okay, what happens?
The moment you glance at the page, even before you consciously decide where to look, your eye might land on something specific. A word, a name, an image.
Sure, that happens.
The source material explains this isn't random. In that split second, your subconscious mind is actually scanning everything on that page. Every single word. It's incredibly fast.
Wow, all of it, instantly.
That's the idea. And while it's scanning, it's instantly flagging anything that resonates with your current internal programs. Maybe the name of your hometown, your job title, something related to a worry you have.
So it's like a personalized highlighting tool based on my subconscious data.
Exactly that. It gives you a little subconscious nudge, directing your conscious attention to what it deems relevant to you based on its programming, filtering out almost everything else instantly. The conscious mind just can't process that fast.
So like attracts like.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily some external magic force pulling things to you.
According to this perspective, it's more about this internal filtering system. Your subconscious recognizes things in your environment, information, opportunities, even people that are congruent with your existing programs, and it draws your focus and energy towards those things.
You're essentially being guided to notice what matches your internal state.
Precisely. You're noticing and attracting focus to what aligns with your current settings.
Okay, the implication there is huge. If you can successfully install new programs,
Then that exact same incredibly fast, efficient subconscious mechanism will immediately start noticing, highlighting, and connecting you with things related to those new programs. It's like it's already playing chess moves ahead, guiding you towards people, resources, or insights that match your new desired reality just as effectively as it guided you based on the old ones.
all right, so this is the core of it then. How do we actually change the subconscious mind? How does it learn new tricks, basically?
Well, the absolute first step, according to these sources, is figuring out which specific beliefs, which programs are the ones currently jamming up the works.
You have to know what you're dealing with first. Makes sense.
Yeah, because remember that fundamental idea. You act, perform, and experience results based on what you imagine or believe to be true about yourself and the world.
So when things aren't working, instead of just thinking I'm failing, maybe the question is, what underlying belief is making this feel true?
Exactly. Question the source of the doubt, not just the doubt itself. So how do you find them? The sources suggest two main ways. First, simple self-observation.
Just watching yourself.
Watching yourself, yes, but with focused awareness. Look at your life. Where do things flow easily? What comes naturally to you? Success in certain areas, easy relationships, skills you just picked up.
Those are probably supported by positive programs.
Very likely. Now, flip it. Where do you consistently struggle? Where do you feel like you're pushing a boulder uphill? Where does success feel elusive despite tons of conscious effort?
Ah, okay. That's where the non-supportive programs are likely lurking.
That's the strong indicator. It's like trying to accelerate with the parking brake on. That resistance points to a conflicting subconscious belief.
That's a really practical way to start mapping it out. What's the second method?
The second method is quite different. It's called muscle testing,
Yeah.
specifically a technique they describe as the sway test.
Muscle testing. Sounds intriguing. How does that work?
The underlying principle, as the sources explain it, is that our thoughts and beliefs aren't just mental. They have a physical effect on the body's energy system, its electrical network. Energy flows through our muscles. When you hold a thought or make a statement that is incongruent with your deep subconscious programming, basically, something your subconscious fundamentally disagrees with, it creates a kind of momentary stress or disharmony in that electrical flow.
And that affects the muscles.
It can cause a very subtle, temporary weakening or change in muscle response. The sources call it like having a telephone line to the subconscious.
A way to bypass the conscious mind's opinion and ask the subconscious directly.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
It gives you a physical yes-no answer about whether a belief is held subconsciously.
So how do you do the sway test? What are the steps?
It's actually pretty straightforward. Step 1, just stand relaxed, feet comfortably apart, or you can even sit upright. Step 2 is the calibration, finding your yes and no.
Right.
You make a statement you absolutely know is true for you, like my name is your actual name. Then you just relax and notice any subtle shift in your body. Often there's a slight pull or sway forward for yes.
Forward for yes.
Then you state something clearly false. My name is Mickey Mouse, or whatever. Again, relax and notice the response. Often it's a subtle sway or feeling of being pushed backward for no.
Backward for no. So you get your personal baseline.
Exactly. That's your body's yes-no signal. And this is crucial because sometimes we consciously think we believe something or we really want to believe it.
But the subconscious program is actually different.
Precisely. So now you apply it. Take those areas where you identified struggle through self-observation. Formulate clear statements about the desired belief. For example, if relationships are tough, you might test, I am worthy of a healthy, loving relationship.
And then you just stand there and see if you sway forward, yes, aligned, or backward, no resistance.
That's it. Or making abundance is easy and natural for me. See what the body says, forward or back.
And the point isn't judgment, it's just identification. Ah, okay, this is a belief that's blocking me.
Exactly. The sources recommend writing down these statements, testing them, and noting the responses. It gives you a clear map of the subconscious terrain you need to landscape.
Okay, so you've done the self-observation, maybe you've used the sway test, got a list of these limiting beliefs. Now what? How do you actually change them? Reprogram.
Right, the reprogramming part. The sources lay out 2 primary methods that are apparently very effective. The first one goes back to that theta brainwave state.
A hypnotic-like state from early childhood.
Exactly. While we aren't constantly in theta as adults, the sources point out we pass through it reliably twice a day. And these moments are golden opportunities.
Why golden?
Because in theta, the conscious mind's critical filter is largely offline. The doorway to the subconscious is more open, less resistant to new input. It's like that receptive state of a young child again.
And when are these moments?
As you're drifting off to sleep at night, that transition phase, and also as you're waking up in the morning, coming out of deep sleep, but before you're fully alert.
That kind of drowsy, half-awake state.
Precisely. Your brain waves are predominantly in theta then, so the technique is to use this window. The suggestion is using earphones. As you're falling asleep or just waking up, you can play audio. This could be guided imagery focused on your desired outcome, or simple affirmations, positive I am statements about the new belief you want to install.
Like recording yourself saying, I am confident, or I attract abundance easily.
Exactly. Or using pre-made subliminal programs, just ensuring they align with your goals. But here's the really important part. The volume needs to be low. Very low.
Why low?
Because you don't want the conscious mind to engage with it, analyze it, or resist it. It should be quiet enough that it just slips past the conscious guard dog and speaks directly to the receptive subconscious. High volume would likely just be rejected.
Makes sense. Gentle suggestion, not forceful argument.
Right. They also mention you could play very low volume background tracks during the day, maybe with embedded affirmations, not for conscious listening, but just for the subconscious to pick up occasionally.
Okay, so that's method 1, influencing during the theta state. What's the second way?
The second way is how we learn most habits after age 7. Pure repetition and conscious practice.
Like learning to ride a bike or play piano, just doing it over and over.
Exactly. The conscious mind might grasp a concept from reading it once, but the subconscious learns through repeated doing. It needs practice to form a new habit, a new automatic response.
So for reprogramming, this means.
It means consciously, deliberately repeating the new desired belief or intention over and over. But critically, it also means consciously acting as if that new belief is already true.
The fake it till you make it idea, but maybe more targeted.
Kind of, but with conscious intention. Every time the old pattern, the old behavior linked to the limiting belief tries to surface, you consciously interrupt it and replace it with the action, the posture, the thought pattern of the new desired program.
So using their loneliness example,
hmm
if the old program made you slump and look down,
You consciously choose, in that moment, to stand tall, change your facial expression, maybe even initiate a conversation you physically embody how a person who feels connected and loved would act. You override the old pattern with the new one, consistently.
so this is not just mental repetition, it's behavioral repetition too.
Yes. And the sources strongly suggest that combining these two methods, the hypnotic impression during theta and the consistent conscious repetition and behavior change during the day, is the most potent way to really rewrite those deep programs and achieve your goals. It gets the whole brain involved.
And the material suggests that after doing this consistently for a while, say a few weeks, you can actually measure if it's working.
Yes, you can go back to that tool.
That's
Muscle
the
testing, the sway test. You retest the same statements you identified earlier as being out of alignment.
So if I am worthy of abundance used to make you sway back.
You test it again. If you still get a significant backward sway or feel that sense of internal resistance, it means the old program is still dominant. You just need more time, more consistent reprogramming, keep up the theta state work and the conscious repetition.
But if you persist,
If you persist, eventually when you test that statement, the subconscious will offer no resistance. You might get a strong forward sway or just feel neutral, solid. That indicates the new belief is taking hold, becoming integrated.
and what happens then, according to the sources?
This is the exciting part. Once the new belief is installed as the default program, that incredibly powerful subconscious mechanism we talked about, the filter, the guide, it instantly starts working to validate that new program in your actual experience.
So going back to the newspaper,
Yeah,
but now your subconscious is looking for different things.
exactly. Your perception literally changes because the underlying filter has changed. You start automatically noticing, focusing on, and being drawn towards opportunities, information, people, and circumstances that align with your new belief about yourself and the world. Manifesting becomes less about struggle and more about alignment. So wrapping it up, the sources really drive home that living intentionally isn't just wishful thinking. There's a kind of science to it, starting right inside your own mind.
When you consciously choose and install new programs, replacing the old limiting ones, you're essentially directing that powerful subconscious mechanism to work for you, not against you.
You start attracting and experiencing what aligns with those new supportive beliefs. It's a shift in perspective, really, from maybe feeling like a victim of circumstances.
To realizing, wait, I am the master here. I can actually direct this by managing the internal program.
Exactly. And the potential impact is profound, not just for your own life clearing out old baggage, but potentially breaking cycles.
Right, not passing down those same limiting programs to the next generation.
The core message is quite empowering. Your reality can genuinely be shaped intentionally by harnessing the power of your mind and changing the programs it operates from.
Wow. Okay, that was definitely a deep dive. We covered a lot, from understanding how that automatic, the cybernetic subconscious works and gets programmed early on.
To practical ways to actually pinpoint the beliefs holding you back, using things like self-observation and that sway test.
And then diving into the how-to,
Mm.
using the theta state window for reprogramming,
Mm.
and the power of consistent conscious repetition and acting as if.
Yeah, it really brings it back to this central point, that the ability to consciously guide your subconscious and therefore shape your reality isn't something external you need to find. It's this incredible system already operating within you. You just need to learn how to drive it consciously.
And just to leave you with something to chew on, think about that idea the sources touched on, breaking the cycle. If you take conscious control of your internal programming, you're not just changing your own life story. What might it mean for future generations if you consciously choose not to pass on inherited limitations? What could that ripple effect look like, starting with you right now?